Do the Sooners have enough snaps to go around at Cheetah? What's the biggest question mark facing the Sooners leaving spring ball? We'll talk about that, taking your questions on today's episode of Locked On Sooners.
You are Locked On Sooners, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma Sooners, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Sooner Nation? Welcome to Locked On Sooners, and thank you for making Locked On Sooners your first listen every single day. Shout out to every member of the Everyday Club. Thanks for listening, tuning in on the podcast side and on YouTube. Subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcast for free and available on all platforms. My name is John Williams. You can follow me on Twitter at John9Williams. My buddy here is Josh Helmer. You can follow him on Twitter at JoshOnRef. You can also hear him Monday through Friday from 9 to noon on 94.7 The Ref in Norman. Josh, we're taking the questions from Twitter. Our folks over there at the Locked On Sooners Twitter account, or following Locked On Sooners Twitter account, send in some good questions. Let's start here because Dasan McCullough, we talked about, had a fantastic spring game performance, but we might be sleeping on Justin Harrington as well. He had a really strong performance, and the coaching staff is still really up in air, or really highly encouraged by his production and his improvement over the spring. So Lewis from Fort Worth asks, are there enough cheetah snaps to go around between Dasan McCullough and Justin Harrington?
Based on the way the coaching staff is talking, that's a very interesting question. I'm going to do something that I absolutely hate, and I'm going to paraphrase for Brent Venables here, because I'll pull the audio clip or the video clip later this week or next week for the Everyday Club. But based on what Brent Venables was saying, again, he raved after the spring game about Justin Harrington. And Harrington had a nice day in the spring game. And yet maybe it's just me individually caught up with, well, did you see Dasan McCullough as a freshman All-American at Indiana? And then he comes to the spring game, John. Well, comes to Oklahoma, performs in the spring game. And though it's just 3 tackles, I mean, he's flying around. He looks like such a natural. You had questions. Okay, here's somebody that, or I had some questions. I'll speak for myself. This is somebody that has, at Indiana, played the edge position well. Is that just maybe where he is naturally best suited? And lo and behold, they put him out at Cheetah, and he looks great in the spring game. And yet, all along the way, you've got Teddy Lehman, who, of course, I think any Oklahoma fan would put a lot of stock into what Teddy's saying. And he says, hey, you need to be scooping up this Justin Harrington Cheetah stock. And yet, because of that excitement, because surrounding Dasan McCullough, and after what he did in the spring game, even with Harrington looking good, I think for some, myself included, it's natural to say, okay, well, yeah, that's McCullough's job. Is it McCullough's job? Or what does that mean? Does this lend itself, John, to where if both guys are that impressive, and again, Brent Venables afterwards was raving about Justin Harrington, talking about this is a low 4.4 speed guy, and he looked fantastic all throughout the spring. If all of that is true, and what we saw on display in the spring game was what it's going to be going forward for Oklahoma, I mean, you got to find a way, right, as many times as possible to get both guys on the field at once.
Yeah, it's one of those good problems to have where you've got depth at the position. You feel good about playing both guys. That's a really good position to be in. It does create an interesting dynamic of how do you get everybody snaps, because, you know, say you're running Danny Stutzman and Jaron Kanak out there as your 2 starting traditional linebackers at Will and Mike. Are you going to go with 2 cheetahs on the field at the same time? I mean, I think that's something that's possible because of Dasan McCullough's ability to rush off the edge, Justin Harrington's ability to cover a little bit. I think you kind of have a dynamic where you could, in theory, run some semblance of a 3-4 where, you know, your 4 linebackers are, you know, include 2 cheetahs, you know, with McCullough and then Kanak and Stutzman on the inside and then Harrington on the other side in a kind of a 3, almost like a 3-3-5 a little bit, where Harrington plays that 5th defensive back role and you've got 3 kind of linebackers out there. So, I mean, that's an intriguing option. And we know that they want to run a lot of different fronts with a lot of different looks. So I think that does give them a little bit of the ability to run, you know, what would look like a 3-4 if you're calling the cheetah a linebacker, but it creates so much versatility and so many, moving parts that it could be tricky for defenses to get a handle on if you've got a Dasan McCullough who you can rush off the edge or you can drop into coverage and then blitz somebody else as your fourth rusher. It creates a lot of really intriguing options that I'm sure that they've explored as they look at how to deploy the assets that they have. That's one potential way that you get those two cheetahs on the field at the same time and have a lot of athleticism, a lot of speed, a lot of, good coverage ability to run, play good run defense, because you don't really give that up when you have Dasan McCullough on the field. Justin Harrington, he's going to be a little bit smaller guy, but because of his speed, he's going to be able to fly around and get to the football as well. So that's a really intriguing option. And again, going back to the depth, we talked about it on numerous occasions, how much the linebackers had to play last year. You're not going to see them play 900, 950, nearly 1,000 snaps this season, because you're going to see them, make sure that they use their depth and get that depth on the field. And that depth is going to be much improved and ready to take snaps as opposed to what it was a year ago. You're going to have guys like Kip Lewis and Kobe McKenzie ready to take snaps and be a part of the linebacker rotation. Shane Witter is going to be back, so that helps you out a lot as well. So it's going to be a much better linebacker group. But again, having two cheetahs that you feel great about playing out there, which I don't think they did last year. They liked Justin Harrington. They liked his progression, but I don't think they felt confident and comfortable with rolling him out there. That's why you saw Deshaun White play over 900 snaps last season for the Sooners. So again, good problem to have, trying to figure out how to get all your good players on the field at the same time. You get a lot of speed out there if you get McCullough and Harrington on the field at the same time with Kanik, with Stutzman. That's a really intriguing linebacker core.
In identifiable passing downs, we might see a good bit of that, right? To where you can just let McCullough just go be a pass rusher, and you feel like you're not giving up any of the coverage ability because you've got Justin Harrington back there. Some of it, I mean, maybe it hinges too on what does the edge position look like for Oklahoma? How quickly, how fast does that group come along for OU? Because, if you love that group, maybe you just have to pick between Dasan McCullough and Justin Harrington, because you don't want to take one of those natural edge guys away from the edge. But I think you hit the nail on the head just in that it's a good problem to have. And it seems like Oklahoma, just from a how are they going to put all the puzzle pieces together standpoint, John, they've got more puzzle pieces in the box, which this is a fun holiday puzzle, right? This is it's good to have more puzzle pieces to try to place for Oklahoma. They didn't necessarily have that a year ago, and maybe they're, that depth portion when we have that conversation feels like Oklahoma's going in that direction, and the cheetah is, I think, one good example of that.
Exactly right. You improve your depth across the board on defense, but that cheetah spot, which is so crucial to Brent Venables' defense, it's improved because Justin Harrington's got more familiarity, more comfort level with it. You got an incredible athlete in Dasan McCullough coming in and playing the position as well. So that gives you a lot of really good options, but it's going to be fun to watch, see how they deploy that. I really hope we do see an alignment where it's, a 3-4 look, but you got your two cheetahs out on the field and just creating so much, potential confusion, because you could drop either one of those guys. You could drop both those guys into coverage and then blitz Stutzman and Kanik up the middle. And then you're like, okay, now what do we do? Like, it's super confusing because now Stutzman's got to work on his interior pass rush. But again, it's a big physical guy with a lot of, with good juice coming up the middle, rushing the A gaps, getting the quarterback off his spot. Very intriguing. We got more questions coming from you. We got some thoughts from Brent Venables after the spring game as well. But first, let me talk to you all about Built Bar. Built Bar is the best tasting protein bar ever. If you haven't had it, you're missing out. It tastes great. It's great for you. 17 grams of protein, only 4 or 5 grams of sugar, 130 calories. So many great flavors like the peanut butter brownie, coconut almond, mint brownie. Those are 3 of my favorites, but great like coconut brownie chunk. And if you like marshmallow texture foods, man, they got Built Puffs that are fantastic. That is a big, a fan favorite, if you will, of the Built Bars, the Built Puffs. So go check it out, built.com. Use promo code LOCK15, or you might be able to check them out at Walmart, Sam's Club as well. Again, the best tasting protein bar on the market, Built. Go to built.com. Use promo code LOCKED15. Get 15% off your next order at built.com. Our next question, Josh, comes to us from Brandon Owens on Twitter. He asked the question, what did y'all think of Peyton Bowen's debut in an Oklahoma jersey? I'm thinking he is everything they are saying and more.
Yeah, agreed. He looked fabulous. And I said this the other day, and I'll just reiterate it again. That was not the greatest interception of all time in the spring game.
How dare you, sir?
I know. But underthrown pass, not a great decision from Dylan Gabriel. But what it was is something we haven't seen a lot of from Oklahoma defensive backs, just being in the right position and being there to go make that play. And then given the opportunity, making the play, right? I mean, how many times have we seen, whether it's a defensive back or a linebacker for Oklahoma, interception, it's there to be had. Oklahoma doesn't come away with the turnover, right? So just even from that standpoint, I thought that was great from Bowen. But I keep going back to the Brent Venables quote, football is easy for Peyton Bowen, that he dropped on us immediately once the spring started. And I think we saw that from Peyton Bowen. He is, and this is not just going out of my way to be, waking up with choosing violence, or before we call it a day, choosing violence. I think early on here, and I know the physical profiles are different, but the reputation coming in is similar. Early on, I'm going to go ahead and say it. Peyton Bowen looks like who we hoped Buki was going to be at the University of Oklahoma. And it's very, very green at the gills, very early in this process. But this is a 5-star defensive back coming to the University of Oklahoma that football is easy for, and it looks like football is easy for, John. He looks very early like a 5-star defensive back, what you would expect him to look like.
And without all of the, I don't know how to phrase it so much, personality of Buki, like Buki got himself a kind of a bad rap a little bit because of some of the personality, some of the poor timing for penalties, late hits, targeting fouls, just pass interferences. It was just one of those guys that he never really materialized. Had some good moments, played some good, snaps for the Oklahoma Sooners, but never really lived up to the hype of being one of the highest rated defensive back prospects that Oklahoma had ever had. So yeah, it's easy to make the comparison between the two. I do think that Peyton Bowen's athletic profile is so much greater than what Buki's was. I mean, Buki was a fast player, but he was undersized. Peyton Bowen, he's not a big guy, but he's got more size. I think he's a more athletic player, and he plays fast. Like he plays mentally fast, which is just as important as playing fast or being fast, is mentally being able to process quickly and do the right thing, do the thing you're supposed to do. Again, you come into it, I know we can overstate this, but you come into a program like the University of Oklahoma with a head coach with as much defensive success as Brent Venables, who's coached a lot of great players at the collegiate level. And he's saying that the game comes easy for this guy. Like, I don't think we can really oversell that enough. Like, there might not be a higher compliment from Brent Venables than that, at least publicly, about a player, especially about a true freshman player. I mean, that's huge. The fact that he can come in and again, Venables talked about it in the post-game presser, missed a lot of practice time due to injury, due to the loss of a loved one. And he's still able to make such an impression, such an impact, that we're talking about him potentially being a day one starter as a true freshman, which is definitely within the realm of possibility. But even if not, he's going to be a really, really good rotational player as a true freshman. And then by 2024, like, he's definitely one of your starters at safety. And I mean, the sky is the limits for this kid. He's absolutely blowing off all of the expectations. And it just goes to show how important that recruitment was at the end, where, you've got, Notre Dame is the committed, party. They flipped to Oregon. Oklahoma never really gives up on the pursuit. and gets the flip from Oregon on signing day and end up with one of the best players in the class. And that's absolutely huge. So, any more thoughts on Peyton Bowen before we go to our final question, Josh?
Well, just would like to revisit that because of said recruitment that you're referencing, John. Said it then, still feel that way now. Too wild of a recruitment for him not to be an all-time great at the University of Oklahoma. It just feels like there's something to it, right? It's just was meant to be for the University of Oklahoma. And if he goes on this trajectory that early on, it looks like he just might, John, and he has, we've talked about it ad nauseum. The safety room is clearly already, it's so obviously upgraded from where it was even a year ago with Billy Bowman and Reggie Pearson. I think is a nice addition there. We haven't even seen some of the other guys that have signed their next from last year's class, their next steps forward. And then you add Peyton Bowen into the mix, John, it's already very, very much improved. And it's with that being improved, I can't rule out the possibility that Peyton Bowen's going to be a day one starter this season for Oklahoma because he's that impressive. And if he's that guy, oh man, you're talking about by the time his career is done here, 1, 2, 3 years that he would play and start at the University of Oklahoma, knock on wood, good bill of health, good bill of health here throughout it. John, to me, it's probably still a little bit too early on this, but I see the makings of somebody at Oklahoma that could wind up as, an all-time defensive back great here at Oklahoma. He's got that type of sizzle about him.
And we're hungry for it, right? It's been a long time since we've had a defensive back at the University of Oklahoma that's been a great player. You go back a long, long way, whether it's Roy Williams or Derek Strait, until you find a guy that is kind of a legendary figure. I'm not going to put that expectation on him. I'm not going to tell you that Peyton Bowen's going to be Derek Strait or Roy Williams, but early returns are very, very promising that this guy could go down as one of the better defensive backs in Oklahoma's, last decade easily, I think. Final question on spring game or from spring game questions on the Twitter side of things. David from Utah asks, the biggest question mark about the Oklahoma Sooners leaving the spring, Josh?
So I'm not going to just keep hammering the drum on the offensive line. I think we've covered that. We've covered that top to bottom, and obviously injuries are a part there. So I would just say the biggest question I have that remains with this team, we couldn't answer in the spring because you didn't play a real football game. The biggest answer is just the biggest question that needs answered is, can this team go win close football games? Has it mentally turned the corner under Brent Venables? That's the biggest question that still pertains to this football team. We could do the offensive line conversation, defense. I mean, just generically, how much has it improved? Those are still big questions, but bigger bird's eye view even than that. Has Oklahoma figured out how to go win football games again under Brent Venables? That's the $1 million question.
And they're going to have to, because they're going to play close football games again this year, because the defense is going to be better. It's just not going to be such a defense that all of a sudden they're winning by 20 or winning by 30 in Big 12 play. They're going to have games where they win by 10, but I do think that they'll still play a lot of one-score games. But now you have to kind of bring that back to the mean, in that you start winning some of these close games that you lost a year ago. That's going to be the biggest difference. And again, it comes back to, like we've talked about, red zone, third down on both sides of the ball. Can you get off the field on defense on third down? Can you sustain drives on third down on offense? Can you score when you're in the red zone? Those things matter, and they're what win and lose games. When you lose close games, you point back to what? Red zone efficiency, third down efficiency, especially on offense. Defensively, you point to third down defense. It matters. If Oklahoma can improve in those areas, they're going to be much better. And I do think that they will. I think that, especially on defense, that they're going to be a much, much better third down defense this year, where they're not giving up, a 3rd and 10 like they were, or a 3rd and 12, or God forbid, a 3rd and 16 against Adrian Martinez in Kansas State. I feel like that's the new squib kick, even though it wasn't as high profile of a game. Like, that's the one I keep coming back to. It's like 3rd and 16, Adrian Martinez rumbling down the sideline. untouched because the spy decided not to spy. That said, yeah, if they can learn how to win close games, it's going to be a much, much different program. But that's still the big question is, can they win close games?
And just generally speaking, here's one cut from Venables talking about, hey, did you get out of the spring? With all of that being said, did you get out of the spring what you needed to get out of the spring?
Again, through this, you feel, all right, we mission accomplished. We improved, we got better, and now you go back and certainly we're evaluating it every step of the way, but now all right, now here's where we're at, and here's what we got to add to it, here's where you got to improve, and some of it's going to be roster, some of it will be scheme, and some of it will be just, the plans for the summer, and again, continue to help the leadership lead. And so we can continue to make improvement. The improvement process isn't over. It's in many ways just beginning. So feel better. Again, like I say, we want to get better and improve, and we did, but, we still got a lot of work to do.
And Brent Venables, by the way, referring to this next phase, John, as the transformational phase. So that is now how we can refer to the post-spring until they return together and go through, summer camp and then fall camp into the season. This is now the transformational phase.
And one thing that I thought was intriguing is, improving the roster. Is he talking strictly by the summer enrollees for the 2023 class? Is he talking about they're going to continue to be active in the transfer portal? Now, we've already seen them add Brennan Thompson, the wide receiver, to the position group. I just don't know where else they could potentially add unless there's a legit star that just pops up in the portal. I don't think that they're going to do much more shopping in the transfer market, but he could be talking about, the guys that are coming in the early or the summer enrollees for the 2023 signing class, guys like Jaquays Petaway, guys like Lewis Carter and Sam Omasigo and Day McCullough. Like, there's going to be a lot of talented guys that show up this summer and continue to add to the competition and the talent level in the room.
Well, and the second transfer portal window closes on April 30th. So it's my understanding that from a transfer standpoint, that's it, right? In terms of being eligible to play for next season. Now, a grad transfer would be, I guess, different, that you could maybe enroll and take a summer class to be ready to go. That makes my head spin sometimes trying to figure out what the actual eligibility requirements would be in different instances. But yeah, I mean, I think we're running out of sand in the hourglass, to my understanding, of transfer portal additions for Oklahoma. So I would tend to agree with what you laid out there, John, that probably he's referencing the summer enrollees that will be along shortly for Oklahoma, which, yeah, they're going to have some talent there. And, I just look no further than wide receiver. I've been saying that again and again and again, that both Petaway and Keon Brown, for me, they're going to have a definite chance. And Brennan Thompson, who they brought in, that's a transfer portal addition, but he'll arrive obviously later as a wide receiver. I mean, that's three names right there that absolutely, to me, one of those three is probably going to be a big time factor for OU next season.
They got to find somebody. And right now they don't have the answer at wide receiver 2. So it's a kind of one of those lingering questions that we've been talking about coming out of the spring. You don't really have a definitive answer there just yet, but again, talent is on the way. They're going to have an even more improved roster as they head into the summer and to start getting ready for the 2023 season. We'll see which of the 2023 summer enrollees are going to be quick learners and able to make an impact this fall for the Oklahoma Sooners. Any parting thoughts, Josh, before we get out of here? We're going to go ahead and close it down. Big 12 championship for Oklahoma men's golf. Huge. Oklahoma Sooners softball has a chance to clinch a Big 12 regular season title this weekend against Kansas. Any thoughts? Parting thoughts? Take it wherever you want. Any big takes? Go for it.
Appreciate the Everyday Club as always. Yes, for the second year in a row, back to back, Oklahoma men's golf stands above the rest. From Prairie Dunes Country Club, that's up in Hutch, Oklahoma, rising above the rest. And it just seems like, John, this time of the year, obviously back-to-back years they've won the Big 12 here, but even the years that they haven't won the Big 12 championship, Coach Hibble, man, Ryan Hibble gets this golf team playing its best golf at the right time to where they go either track down a national championship or come so close to tracking down a national championship. And I think that this team's right back in the thick of that race. Football-wise, man, we got more we got to touch on from the Brent Venables and Ted Roof conversation. Still just want to have sort of a overall defensive conversation for the everyday club. You want to stick around. How much genuine improvement has this defense made already? Ted Roof, let's hear some of his comments as the week closes down, coming up the rest of the way here. And then let's have that debate and the discussion. How much genuine progress has Oklahoma made already before this season even kicks off as the spring concludes?
And that's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Sooners. Thanks so much for tuning in and being a part of the show. We're free and available on all podcast platforms. Subscribe over on YouTube, hit that notification bell, and hit that like button. It'll let you know when new episodes drop. Follow Josh on Twitter at JoshOnRef. Follow me at John9Williams, and follow the show on Twitter and now on TikTok at Locked On Sooners. Check it out over there. We've got little episodes dropping, not little episodes, but just little shorts dropping over there from time to time. We're going to provide a little bit of more content over on that phase of social media as well. But until next time, he's Josh Helmer. I'm John Williams. We might have some NFL draft stuff to talk about tomorrow night or on the next show for Friday. Make sure you're tuned in wherever you get your podcasts. Talk to you then. Boomer Sooner.